Oh my God, that music. It's incredible. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's a spoiler review of Top Gun. It's a spoiler review of Top Gun. And if you are brand new to the channel, please do me a favor and subscribe. You hit the notification button. If we get to, wow, it's going to be quick. You got to get to 40,000 by June 1st, and we will smash pies in people's faces. That's it. All right, listen. I'm excited. Look at this. We're back. We did it. And we're sitting next to each other. Like, see?
Look at this.
And that's what people don't realize is that we are sitting next to each other, and we are doing a review. And what a review to do. Are you kidding me? It's the spoiler review for Top Gun Maverick. Obviously, if you haven't seen this movie, what the hell are you doing? First of all, with your life.
Get your life together.
Seriously. First of all, with your life, what are you doing? Second of all, don't watch this. We're going to spoil the hell out of it.
You know what I love about this?
The whole movie?
The way that we're looking at each other is like I'm looking at you right now, and you're looking at me, but we're looking opposite.
Are we not supposed to do that? Are we? No, so we're supposed to do this. See, I knew it. I knew it. I would screw something up. Here, try this. Here we go. Just got to get the names different.
There we go.
Now you're looking at me.
People figured out, hey, I'm Harloff. Subscribe to my channel. I'll buy you a big pie.
Look at that. I did it in the middle. This is what we do in the middle of our review.
Yeah, Kristian was talking to me about like how much easier it would be to do Schmoes Now with all the tech wizardry that he's able to accomplish. And as you're watching it play out in real time.
That's right.
Is he? Is he right?
Nope. It's a disaster, but it's all about as old school as you get.
I mean, look, this is not a normal thing for us anymore, is doing a review of a movie together because we hate each other.
That's right.
No, it's just, now we see the movies we want to see. And so when the opportunity to see Top Gun Maverick came about, it was like, not only do we want to see this movie, not only are we excited about this movie, but maybe we should do a review together. And then we see the movie, and my good God, I was
twice we've seen this, by the way. Twice.
And I bought tickets to see it opening, not even opening night, opening showing. The first showing on Thursday, May 26th, when it comes out, 4 p.m. I will be.
Are you not going to be at Celebration?
Theater. I'll be there the next day. Celebration can wait. Right. Top Gun Maverick cannot, because this might be a film that will stand the test of time in Mark Ellis canon as not just top 10, not just top 5. This is, I've never said this before. Star Wars is feeling the footsteps. Star Wars is hearing something behind it, and that something is a jet fighter flown by Maverick and the rest of the gang. Let's ruin this movie for everybody and spoil it.
Yeah, you're not going to get me to say, are you crazy to put this that far up there? This is a great movie. And when we saw this the first time, and I mentioned this in the non-spoiler review, you don't have to be a Top Gun fan to enjoy this movie. Nope. It's like you will be rewarded, obviously, if you are, for sure.
You're a better person.
It's just a great movie, and the whole thing is everybody has an angle, right? And everybody has an emotional arc. And from the second you see Pete Mitchell and what he's doing, and the fact that he hasn't been really promoted past captain because of what it's in his personality, it makes sense that that's what he would be doing.
Yeah, it's a movie about competition, and it's also a movie about where you belong, finding your place in the world, even if that place may no longer be the home that everyone else thinks you should be occupying. And sometimes you do have to pack up and move to a different phase of life, which is why we got that great conversation between Mav and Ice. I love the way that the Iceman character is so sort of pertinent throughout this entire film, and they really creatively were able to use an ill Val Kilmer to be able to carry some of the load. He's in one scene physically, and we get to see that great back and forth that they have, and it ends with the question that everybody wants to know, who's the better pilot? And they have like a funny joke about it. But then we also get to text Iceman, and we hear the reverence that everybody has for Kazansky, not so much for Maverick. And so when Maverick gets called
his crew, the people that he works with, though, do hold him in high regard.
Because they know what a pilot is. There's no question about the greatness of Mav as a pilot, but as somebody who actually falls in line with naval standards, that is where a guy like John Hamm or Ed Harris in this movie is coming from. And so to see the different take as to how to approach this impending mission that we have, which, by the way, the mission itself was so effing
all of that,
awesome.
But it was because the mission itself, the way that they set it up, but even before that, when he's trying to, because everything in the beginning of the movie to set up where he is, how he is still this great pilot, but how he still hasn't really changed as much, because it's like, remember, if you get to Mach 10, stay to Mach 10 and don't push it. And then he's in there and he's like, just don't do it. Yeah, he's like, just don't do it. And he gets to 10.2, and then the ship blows up. And it was I was worried about that scene because I was like, okay, are they gonna start to do these comedic beats where when he shows up to the town and he's covered in soot,
just completely frazzled,
but it works.
The kid thinks that the kid tells him he's on Earth.
It was hilarious, and it worked well and I was like, not too many moments like that, and there aren't a lot of those moments. It's just they put moments in there when they work.
Well,
right?
given the events and the drama that's going on in this movie, you do need a little bit of levity
and
there.
It works.
And I thought that the stealth fighter scene was so good because that shows us where we are. That shows us who we're dealing with. That shows us that Mav is still the best of the best, but he also just has this issue, particularly with his superiors, where they don't really believe it anymore. I think it's fair to have a character like Annette Harris who wants to de-pilot planes. He just wants to put drones in. It saves lives.
His speech made sense.
His speech made all the sense in the world. And then you're like, okay, well, what can Mav still do? And then we get this theme through the rest of the film once he goes back to Top Gun and he's training a new crop, including some guy named Bradshaw. And you realize that it's not just about the plane, it's about the pilot. Mav, as great of a pilot as there is, but can he instill his abilities and his mindset into a new crop of hotshots? And that's a really fun thing to watch play out through the rest of the film.
It is. And in general, let's just talk about this cast. And you've got Tom Cruise obviously as Pete Mitchell, Miles Teller as Rooster Bradshaw, Goose's son, Jennifer Connelly as Penny Benjamin. It's listed as Penny Benjamin, not a spoiler. Monica Barbaro.
Somebody yelled at you.
Oh, a few people. Phoenix. Lewis Pullman played Bob. John Hamm was great in this movie also. Ed Harris, Glenn Powell, who we'll talk about. But it's Tom Cruise in
Jay
general.
Ellis, my cousin.
That's right. And what Tom Cruise is able to do in this role as Maverick, look, is there Tom Cruise all over this thing? Sure. Yeah. He's Tom Cruise.
The movie's called Top Gun Maverick.
But it's like, people are like, well, is he Tom Cruise or is he Maverick? And I think the answer is both. Right, and it's like it's hard to peel off too much of the Tom Cruise, but I think that you really get the pain that Maverick's going through, and the idea that even 30 years later that this thing with Goose is carrying him in the relationship, and the promise that he made to Meg Ryan's character before she died, that in the whole and the fact that scene when he's with Penny Benjamin
in bed,
and she's like, well, why did you stop him from joining? Because his mother asked me to. She's like, well, why didn't you tell him that? She's like, because he already hates me. I don't want him to hate her too. What a great line.
Yeah, the perception of Maverick, and we see in the first movie when him and Iceman have their first interaction at the bar, and it's like, I heard that you like to work alone, and Ice thinks he's dangerous. And so Mav still has that ability, but when it comes to the family of Goose, he's willing to fall on his sword because he still beats himself up about it. And so I love that we look at Mav, who apparently lives in an airplane hangar in the desert. You talk about living the dream, my God. Right. He's got all these pictures of Goose. He still thinks about Goose all the time. When he's flying early in the film, before that plane blows up, he said, talk to me, Goose. He still says, talk to me, Goose. So Goose is still on his mind, and the fact that he pulled the papers of Rooster to not be able to get into the academy, it also set up something that I think this film did so well, because I feel like the addition of Val Kilmer was necessary, because he really is the in-between between the powers that be that do not want anything to do with Maverick anymore, and Maverick himself. But this movie, I'm sure, had to fight the temptation to, let's get Slider back for a scene. Let's get Wolfman in Hollywood. Right. Let's get Meg Ryan back.
If it was a TV show, you could have done that, like they do in Cobra Kai. But with the movie, it was kind of unnecessary.
But Cobra Kai still kind of treats its material with a wink and a nod and a little bit of satire. Sure. This movie walked that line, because what you can say about the original Top Gun, there's folks like us that actually just think it's a great movie. You can look at it as a great sports film. You can say that you feel like it's a little cheeseball and superficial. But this movie treated the source material with enough respect that it didn't feel the need for speed and to bring back just for the sake of having a cameo. It furthered the story without looking back too fondly.
So I've been quoting Mark Bernardin on this a lot. When I had a chance when he was
smart guy, loves Van Halen.
Well, when he was on the show, we were talked about nostalgia, and I've been quoting him often when he says that nostalgia, when sprinkled in, is and done well, can benefit you tremendously. Yeah. If it's just there for nostalgia purposes and doesn't have any substance, then that's the problem. This is the sprinkle is what makes this movie perfect, because the story itself is this new mission, the new crew, the way that this crew works together, the setup and the way that they're put together, and they have to work with Maverick. These are the best of the best pilots. And even that line when Phoenix says, well, we're the best. Who the hell's going to teach us? Because it's this mission. Like, nobody thinks that it can be done. And the idea and the way that it's all set up, that's what this is about. Plus the fact, and that's why I say you don't have to watch the first movie to enjoy it, but you will benefit from it, because you'll get a little bit more of the emotional attachment. Like, for example, a scene that breaks my heart. I've seen it twice now, because it's just paced. This is easily Joseph Kosinski's best movie. The pacing and everything too. That scene, adding to that humor, when he goes in to see Penny Benjamin inside of the bar, and she's messing with him a little bit because they've had this relationship for a very long time.
They've been on and off.
Yeah, and then
you know what that's like, don't you, folks?
They grab him and they throw him out of the bar. And you're like, oh, what a fun moment. But then when Rooster starts, and it's still in the middle of this fun moment, but Rooster's playing Great Balls of Fire.
And
Mav's watching from outside. It's heartbreaking.
And that scene is so crucial as well, because we get to know the other pilots, the younger crew, in such a short period of time, that we get to see where Penny Benjamin is. We get to see who Phoenix is, what a badass she is. We get to see a Payback. We get to see Hangman or Bagman, depending on who you are talking to. But Glenn Powell shows us so quickly that he is like an Iceman, but he's his own person. He's not
he's Iceman and Maverick put together.
He really is.
Yeah.
He's got elements of both. And then we also obviously get to see how Miles Teller's character, Rooster, is still this guy who sort of paints outside the lines a little bit when it comes to the Navy. A lot like his old man would. He's funny, he's cocky, and he can tickle the ivories. And so now we know that there's this disconnect between him and Mav, and we get to see Mav training them. And the training sequences in this movie are spot on. But the thing that I love, and it might be my favorite scene of the movie, I'm still debating, is when we feel like this is an impossible mission and Mav is no longer on it. And so Mav, doing Mav things, steals an F-18 and is like, I'm going to show you that I can pull off the maneuvers that this mission is going to require.
In less time than it's required. And
everybody in the room, including John Hamm, who hates what's going on, and the younger pilots who think that they're the best of the best, but now they're starting to watch this, and it's like, oh my God, it would be like Patrick Mahomes watching Tom Brady win one more Super Bowl. Yeah. And they're so locked in. And after that moment, it's like, okay, we trust this guy. And that is when I started getting the feeling like, you know what? Pretty sure they're going to be calling Mav into this mission and not just to teach it.
And when you mentioned the John Hamm stuff, because John Hamm the character does not like Maverick at all, and says it throughout. You're only here because of Iceman.
And by the way, really, I love that he was also number one, or he was number one in his class, like Iceman was in '88. And it's like John Hamm, he's older now, he's grizzled, he doesn't like Maverick anymore, but he's still, you know, that at some point in his life he had that Maverick Ice juice and that kind of ability.
He did, but what I loved about it is that it wasn't this cliche thing where he's this guy that needs to be thrown off of the. You got to get rid of him because he hates Maverick so much. There's no way he's ever going to let him. And there's that great scene where he's like, "Now I got to figure out what to do. I just watched you do this, so I have to now make this decision." And that's the type of humor I love, where he has this rhetorical question, and then Mav's like, "Oh, sir," and he's like, "It's a rhetorical question." Like all those moments, but then you're so locked in emotionally to everything going on. And what they do very well, not playing into cliches and doing the same thing that you've seen over and over again, they cheat who's going to die so many times. No one dies in this movie that you care about. No one.
I was concerned multiple times because we get into this final mission and they handled it, I think, even more deftly.
But not even the final mission. Before you get into the final mission, not even then. Even in the training, still you think
because we're all so conditioned from the first Top Gun to be like, well, this is where we lost Goose. Is it going to be Phoenix? Is it going to be Payback? Who's it going to be? And luckily, we just black out because of G-forces and we parachute. We're all going to be fine. Then we get to this
then you get to the mission,
and whereas in the first Top Gun they referenced the other side briefly, and the reason for that is because the Navy actually approves these movies. And so the Navy gets to look at the script and be like, well, we probably shouldn't talk about this or that country.
Right.
And so
they don't really ever mention a country, right?
But it also makes you feel like you're a fighter pilot because, again, fighter pilots, they're not going in like, oh, I hope I get to bomb country X or country Y today.
Right.
You have a job to do, and you have orders, and it doesn't matter who the orders are against, who the orders are for. This is your job. And so you fly the mission, and it doesn't matter who the country is. There's a uranium enrichment plant, and it's about to be operational. It's like
violating. It's violating.
Star,
and there's they say they're violating NATO boundaries, and they have to go in there and do this thing. And I also like it where they like. It's when you, as a fan of films and everything too, when you think of the Navy, like, oh, well, these fighter pilots must be blowing people up every day, and like Glenn Powell's character has like this reputation because he has one confirmed kill. He's got one, and Maverick has like two, or was it 3? He's 3 from the original.
Yep.
Right, and then he takes out 2 in this one.
Yep. Becomes an ace.
So yeah, that's right. So that like that and the way that they played that, and then getting into that. But I like the fact that Rooster has this, because Rooster is very. I loved his angle or his dilemma that he's got to go through. He's going too slow, and he's not pushing the limits. Yeah, and he's thinking too much. Yeah. And that was that great moment. He's like, what were you thinking? You told me not to think. And he's like, all right,
and
great.
So we have this amazing mission, and we pull off the sequence, and I love how multifaceted it was, because we got to go low, and then we got to go high, then we got to dive deep down, and then we got to hit this thing right on the nose, then we got to go right back up, and we're pushing G's, and then now it becomes a dogfight, and we're going against like missiles that are land to air,
helicopters shooting at you.
There's so much going on. Mav gets shot down, and that's the first time you're like, okay, I understand this is a noble sacrifice.
Do you think he was going to eat it right there?
I thought he was going to eat it a couple times. The time that I thought Mav was going to eat it, and I told you this when we were walking out of the theater, is when I want to say that the grounds crew chief is Hondo. I don't know if that's his name.
It's his buddy. He was great. Let me see if I have it in there.
You go ahead and look while I talk to the folks. And
it's not listed there.
It because Hondo says, Mav, you got that look, and we heard that line earlier in the movie, and Mav's like, it's the only one I got. That moment, Hondo, it's almost like he realizes that, oh, this is the last time I'm ever going to get to see this guy again.
Right.
And I felt that too. And I almost felt like Mav, he didn't have a death wish, but you knew as soon as Mav took off from that aircraft carrier,
he knew the risk.
He was going to do whatever it took to get Rooster back home safe.
Right.
He cared less about himself than he did Rooster, and then he gets shot down, and we get this new aspect of Top Gun where it becomes behind enemy lines.
Right.
But what they did brilliantly is when he crashes, the first time I saw this movie, he crashes and he's trying to avoid the helicopter, and then Rooster comes up and blows it up. I'm like, is Mav going to pull out a gun and like start shooting people?
That was the only time that it felt like, where are we going? We're not going to Mission Impossible here. Right. Right.
And so and Mav just, you never see, there's never like physical violence, like mano a mano.
No.
They run into him and Rooster run into each other, and then you get this amazing finale to the mission where we steal, you guessed it, a beat up old F-14. Yeah. Just like in the original. I want to say you can't write this stuff, but somebody
did write it, and even that moment when he's like, run. Just run and towards the plane, because there's so much chaos going on because they bombed the runway that it's like, so nobody knows what's happening. Yeah. So they steal that plane and they're going. And the idea that the first of all, the F-18 wasn't going to have enough of a problem fighting these. Now the F-14 was toast, and like that is when I wasn't sure what was going to happen with Maverick, because like once he kind of sacrificed himself the first time, I'm like, he probably survived, obviously. Yeah. But then when they're in that F-14 and he's in the F-14, I'm like, it'd be pretty poetic if he dies in the F-14.
And he tells Rooster, he's like, hey, hold on to these babies, and when I tell you to eject, do not question the order.
So the reason why I started to think this might be it, because Goose couldn't eject out of it, and I said, well, how crazy would it be if his son does eject out of it? But Maverick is now going to die, and I'm like, and then when he can't pull it, I'm like, oh no. And then I started thinking, well, wait a minute, Hangman hasn't done anything yet.
As soon as he pulled the ejection handle and it didn't work, I'm like, we're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay.
Yeah, and you're just waiting for Hangman to come back around and bail us out, and he does, and he's still Hangman, because afterwards he's like, I am good. I am very good. Yeah. It's like, it's not like, hey, are you guys okay? It's like, no, I'm still, just because y'all didn't select me for this mission, I'm still the best.
That's what I liked about that character so much. It's the best Glenn Powell's ever been. He's always good, but he's great in this role, because there is that mixture of young Maverick and young Iceman, because he's really good, like the best in his class, but he'll leave you behind. He'll do that, and he had to learn not to do that the same way that Maverick had to do it, right? And then so that character was great. I thought all the characters were really good, and they all really played. Every moment counts in this movie. Like even when he jumps out the window and pops up and sees the daughter, like, and it's this funny moment, and then it ends with "Just don't break her heart again." I felt everyone in that theater go, "Oh."
I love that Mav has grown up a little bit, and sort of realizing that he is out of chances, both maybe in a fighter jet and also with relationships, and somebody who you actually have a meaningful connection with, and it's something we'll probably all have to rectify one day. And when he's talking to Penny Benjamin, you're like, I hope this works. But the other reason why I thought he might eat it is because when he's dressed in his whites and he comes back to the bar to sort of, bid her adieu, and she looks at him, you see her heart sink, and she's like, oh God, he's actually going on this mission. And they have that moment on the beach where they're just hugging each other so hard, and you're just like, I think that she knows this is the last time. And I'm like, we're going to lose this guy. This is going to be the Last Jedi all over again.
I know. Well, when we've seen that, and then I thought Matt would eat it the second time after Rooster, when I thought he was going to eject, but I thought Phoenix was toast, because the way that they set that up, they set it up like the first movie where everything's okay, and then it was not Hollywood. That's from the first movie. Give me the guy who almost blacks out.
Payback.
Yeah. So when Payback is up and he's
oh no, that's not Payback. That's a Coyote almost blacks out.
Right. So Coyote almost blacks out. So Coyote and that whole scene where at first you're like, oh no, Coyote's he's gone. He's gone. He's not going to make it. And then he's okay. Maverick saves him. And then it starts to like peacefully go out. And then the birds come through. And when the birds hit, I'm like, oh no. Because Bob, you could see Bob going.
Poor Bob.
And I'm like, oh no. And then they're like, no, he's okay. And Miles Teller, speaking of him, I'm watching The Offer right now on Paramount Plus. And this guy is just a really good actor, man.
Good.
He really is. And he's so good in this because he's not, you mentioned before you thought he was cocky. See, I don't think he was cocky. I think he was confident in his ability, but like to me, Hangman is the cocky
when he
one.
shows up in that Jeep or whatever, and he walks into, he is a swinging hoss. Like,
sure, he's confident.
He is
confident.
the cock of the walk.
More so than Hangman.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. And then by the way,
have two cocky people.
But by the way, the beach, like people are always wondering, is there going to be volleyball? That's what they ask you. Is there a volleyball scene? Well, there's the football scene.
I
right?
loved it.
But again, the football scene.
It's team building.
Yes.
And by the way,
and
that's what the first volleyball scene was. It actually does factor into the movie.
Kind of. But the volleyball scene, if you watch it recently, it's just thrown in there because. But this one is thrown in there. I think that it's almost like them saying, no, this one means something, because John Hamm goes, what is this? Like the same way that you would say in the first one, what are you doing? And he's like, you said you wanted a team? There's your team, with that great song that's in there. The soundtrack is fantastic. The beginning of this movie, when it starts off with the theme, and then it blasts into Danger Zone.
I was literally elbowing the crap out of his side.
Yep. Would you say Tom Cruise is his best movie? His best movie?
I mean, look, I just said that Return of the Jedi is feeling the footsteps here. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that just means in your personal view. But do you think out of overall,
I have to elevate above myself?
Yeah, but do you
think about other people?
What do you think? Do you think this is to me right now? I have Top Gun Maverick and Edge of Tomorrow battling it out for first place.
The first Top Gun's pretty damn good. A Few Good Men is pretty damn good.
Still like these better.
Anything with Tom Cruise in the Navy, probably a really good movie. But I mean, Edge of Tomorrow is great, but I think this is his best movie. I think this is everyone in this movie's best movie, and I just loved it from start to finish. And it would have been enough for me just to be able to shove a lot of popcorn in my face and see the fact that a lot of the actors, and Tom Cruise leading the way, are actually flying F-18s.
It works.
Is nuts to think about, and it really pays off on the big screen. That would have been enough for me.
Yeah.
But the fact that we feel so much of a connection to what Jennifer Connolly's Penny Benjamin is going through, and how she's feeling about Maverick, how Maverick's feeling about her daughter, his best friend's son. There's so much emotion in this movie that I was hoping for, but didn't necessarily expect. And it all adds up to an experience that is unforgettable, and it's one that I want to keep getting back in the theater for as much as I can. And I'm sure everybody watching this review has probably already seen the movie. And let us know in the comments, are you going back to see it a second time? Just because you really don't get this at the movie theaters that much.
That's why I think this movie's going to crush at the box office, because every person we talked to was like, oh my God, I got to take this person to go see this now. I got to see this again because of the sound. We went with the World Girls.
I know. And they all had varying opinions on the first Top Gun.
Right.
And they all walked out of the theater gushing about it.
So you said, even Dorina, who was just like, who doesn't like popular things.
Yeah.
And she was
and nobody died in this movie.
No, it's true. I mean, nobody that you're really attached to, because they didn't need to. You attached emotionally a bunch of different ways, but this is it's just a great movie. And as you said, they don't make movies like this anymore, because of the way that it's just, you can do this big blockbuster movie but really care emotionally so much without relying on, there's a lot of practical effects in this, and that just is, I hope that it changes movie making. I really do. I hope that they rely on more scripts that dive into the characters and don't rely on the big CGI endings. Those aren't going to go away, but I think that you can show that these type of movies can still be successful and build up.
I mean, you're asking a whole
lot
of another film crew to like, oh yeah, just get a boat and get some jets and have the actors learn how to fly. Like, it's a lot went into this movie. Yeah. I am anticipating one question that you're going to ask me right now.
Schmoe it. Yeah. That's a big 10. That's a big 10 for the two of us. I mean, come on.
It's
perfect.
It's a perfect film, start to finish. And you can look at guys like us and say, well, you're the exact target demographic for a movie like this, and you would not be wrong.
Right.
But I think the brilliance of this movie is that it actually expands and opens itself up to any moviegoer. Anybody who's a film fan is going to get not just something or a couple things. I like that scene. You're going to get a whole lot out of this movie and things that you were not expecting.
Yeah, it's true. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time, and it's because you care so much, and you don't have to care because you saw the first movie in '86, or you saw it later on, or got attached to it. I'm telling you, I think that I'm very curious for people in the comments who saw the first one either for the first time recently, didn't really like it, thought it was just okay. If I was to guess, you think that this movie is significantly better than the first one, but I'm sure you'll see a few comments of people going, I didn't really like it. I'd love to hear why. I wouldn't understand it as much, because there are certain movies I can say, okay, I understand it. This to me is just why you go to the movies. It's why you go to the movies.
And that's what I would say about the first Top Gun is as much as I actually think it holds up as an action film, as a sports movie, I feel like I can at least accept an argument that somebody didn't buy into it or didn't find it. I don't think it's a boring movie, but I feel like, it
gets slow at times.
You may feel like it's just a little surface level. And this one, despite the fact that we're flying jets just above the surface, like literally 100 feet. You talk about a hard deck of 5,000 feet that they're practicing with, then we got to get to 100 feet.
That scene, dude, when he's like,
when he keeps going and just keeps getting better.
But that scene when he's got it, he's like, permission to change the hard deck, sir. So good.
Yeah, all of it. The comedy, every genre of movie that is included in this film hits at exactly the right time.
All right, well, look, we hit at the right time here because we got the Schmoes back together doing a review. It is the spoiler review of Top Gun. Make sure, by the way, if you didn't, hit subscribe to the button. We're going to be doing some more reviews. Mark and I talked about it. We'll do some more reviews. It depends on the movie, obviously. But
I don't know, man. I'm
You're done. You're tapped out now.
God.
But subscribe. Do us a favor. Let's get us to 50,000 if you can do that. But we had a blast here. It is the spoiler review of Top Gun. Leave your comments. I'll respond to them. All right, everybody, enjoy it. Go see it again.